Welcome card readers, April here on Tarot and Witchery, and I'm back with another Before You Buy. If you're new here, welcome. This is a series where I compare two oracles or tarot, and I kind of go through the basics on it, including cost. Then I do the pairings for them, and then I talk about each one individually after I've worked with it, because let's face it, you know, seeing a flip through where somebody's like, ooh, ah, is great, but how the heck did it read, right? So I'll talk about how it read, how it worked for me, and then I will go into my personal opinions about the decks themselves so that you can make an educated buy. So all of the links are down below in the description box, including all the pairings that I have. Before I jump into it, I want to let you know that there are free PDF printables down below that you can get to kind of use in your tarot and oracle practice. Those are down there in the description box. And I also want to tell you that on the 8th, yay, I am live with Gerald on Tarot Stash. So put it on your calendars and meet me there. And then make sure to be back here on the 10th when I go live with Emma Zangs, that she created the Dream Visions Tarot. She's going to be my first my first guest on my lives. We're going to play a tarot game, which I discussed in my last month's retrospective. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to learn about Emma, and we're going to see her deck, which is on Kickstarter right now. So be back here at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the 10th to have a lot of fun with us live. As usual, I know that you don't want to watch all of this, or you may only be into pairings or something like that. So there are timestamps down below so you can jump around the video or come back to something that you thought was important or that you wanted to know. I do want you to guess which one of these you think I'm going to keep, the Soulflower or the Earth Alchemy. So make sure to leave your guess right now down below in the description box, or before I tell you at the very end which one I'm keeping. Starting off with the basics, you can see right here the Soulflower and the Earth Alchemy Oracle. And the prices are on the screen. They're pretty comparable. And these are newer oracles, which is why I'm covering them. This one has a little bit larger box. Let's start with the Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle. We've got the book, and then we've got one of those holders inside the box, but it's actually pretty like firmly in there. It doesn't feel like it's going to rip apart, because I honestly don't like these, but I do like the magnetic box. And it's not too big. It's big enough to make the book a little bit bigger. So let's take a look. We've got the backs here, and you'll see that they're kind of different colors. Yeah, so I think these are the three that you have, or these three right here. Kind of goes in these different degrees. And you would only read these upright as far as I know. And we'll kind of turn them over and go from there. As you can see on each one, you've got the name of the plant. And then you've got a keyword for it. And then you actually have a phrase on each and every one, actually a small paragraph, making it so that you don't really need to use the guidebook if you don't want to. Like if you had this in a bag, I guess you could carry it anywhere and still use it. Looks like watercolor to me. That's what I'm assuming it is. It's a very, of course, earthy color palette because of the subject matter being flowers. And I find that the keywords are pretty straightforward. Integration, recognition, release, integration. Okay, and then in the book here, let's just take a look real quick. You've got tending the garden of your soul, starting with the soil anytime, planting seeds, early spring and new moon, supporting growth, waxing moon. So there's a little bit on the moon cycles. It looks like full moon, waxing moon, dark moon. Nice that she does cover the dark moon. I think sometimes people don't cover the dark moon, and it's my favorite time of the lunar cycle. The new moon to me is the first sliver of moon. That's the magical new moon, as opposed to the astrological new moon, which is what we call the dark moon. And then it's got something on plant spirits. Oops, I missed something. Cultivating a daily practice. All right, and then it's got the plant spirits themselves. Let's just take a look here. So it looks like they're not on, you know how I like to flip and see them, but they're not on every page. I mean, on every left-hand side or right-hand side. However, they are in alphabetical order. Thank goodness. Yes, they are in alphabetical order, and you do get the Latin name on here. So I like that. You know, and I actually call these rudbeckias instead of black-eyed Susans, but then you get the species as well for black-eyed Susan. And you've got what's on the card itself, and then you've got the oracle meaning, and then an affirmation at the end. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so now we've got the Earth Alchemy Oracle. It is not a magnetic box, but rather a box that does have the little side things. You've got your backs here. It's abstract. So it looks like kind of a crystal to me. Crystals in maybe a cave. Really pretty. I like the color in there. Oops, and some of these are not right side up. So both of these, just want to say right off the top, have the nice no borders with something on the bottom down there, which I really like because I feel like this features the artwork. So in this one, in the Earth Alchemy Oracle, it looks like for most of them, not all of them, you have a stone and a plant. Then you have a keyword, you have an element or two elements, and then a little key phrase to go with each one. Again, it's an abstract art style, really beautiful, really dreamy, really, really dreamy. And again, very earthy. Ethiopian opal with the Pegasus. That's really interesting that they put that. And they did put Pegasus in here. Pegasus unicorn energy. Oh, there's a unicorn there and a Pegasus. Rainbow child. Okay, so lava stone and red hot poker. I'll just read this one. My body is a safe place. Transmuting, breaking down barriers, realizations. So you can kind of see you've got these keywords that you can use. And here you've got a figure, but there are not a lot of them in here. I mean, you have the green man hidden in there, but there are not a lot of humanoid beings, I should say, in here. It's basically plants and stones. This looks like a fiddleneck fern right here almost. The diamond ray. So here you have just stones, pink chalcedony. And I just want to put sort of side by side so you can see that they're very similar art styles. They're actually really compatible, even these colors. But let's look at the book on here. You've got this little book, and you've got an introduction, a ceremony for awakening the magic of the deck, which you probably already have your own, but you could do this one. Working with the medicine of the deck, the symbol, so it's got, you know, earth, air, fire, and water symbols right there to kind of show you that. Color rays, interesting. She's got a gentle warning. Do not ingest plants unless under the guidance of someone. So yeah, just a little warning in there. Card layouts. And then it goes right into the cards. So the first thing I'm noticing is that there is no picture of the card at all. And as I move forward, I see that it's got everything that's on the card, but then also it has, going into the plant, an explanation of the plant. And this one's like Mama Cacao. And then rhodonite. So it's got both of those in there. So it's kind of interesting. And then what I'm noticing, yeah, there's no, so I did notice this as I worked with this deck. There are no numbers on the card, and it is not in alphabetical order. Okay, we'll talk more about that later. Let's go into pairings. Let's start off with a few oracle decks. First of all, I just want to say that the two of these look lovely together. And then I have here the Druid Animal Oracle, the Witch's Oracle, and the Goddess Oracle. And I think the dark goes with anything. I feel like animals always go with plants and stones, but I do like the look of these drawings with the Druid Animal Oracle a little bit more. I feel like the Goddess Oracle here goes really well with this, and the Witch's Oracle is wonderful with any of these. And I think energetically these work really well because using a goddess and then a plant, or a goddess and a stone and a plant, I just feel like you've got that sort of earth power going, and it's can be incredibly grounding. And I think, again, animals and plants always go great together, and the Witch's Oracle just has that little bit of a push in that direction to connect with your magic, and connecting with plants and stones always works with that. These next three oracles are energetic pairings. I have the Work Your Light Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. I've got the Sacred Geometry Activations Oracle by Lon, and then this is Rebecca Campbell's other oracle, the Starseed Oracle, and you'll see why I put these together here in a moment. And if you watch the next section on the cards themselves and working with them. Whoops. So, wow, I'm really together with it today. Okay, so, I chose these because the Earth Alchemy Oracle uses a lot of ascension language in it. And so it's going to go great with Rebecca Campbell's Work Your Light and the Starseed Oracle deck. So, and then here, if you're not familiar with this is Lon's Sacred Geometry. Oh my God, I'm having so much trouble talking today. Holy moly. Sacred Geometry Activations. And these are just beautiful cards, and they're really about the energetics. And this deck here in particular would work really well with any of these. But I also feel like energetically, because these can be very in the mind, a lot of this is very much getting into your mind, that having something like the Soulflower to ground you, to kind of counterbalance that, is going to work really well together. Moving on to tarot pairings here, I thought we would start out with unlikely companions, just for the heck of it, right? And we've got the backs here. We've got the Hush Tarot, the Triumphi della Luna Aquadoxical, and this is the illustrated Pips version. And then we have the Dark Grimoire Tarot. So first of all, I think that the backs, well, maybe these to me kind of clash, but I could do that. I could definitely do these. A little bit different, but I don't really pair for the backs anyway. Whoops. And I wanted to put some new cards up here for you to see. Now, again, unlikely companions. However, these to me, again, are about balance, about bringing balance. Especially here, I picked the Strength card just because I thought this was such a great, it's so intense. This is so intricately illustrated. Actually, all of these are. This is a little bit less so. But they're so intricately illustrated, and I feel like the energy for me, now it's not for all of you, on these two decks here are a little bit more intense. They really call me to grab a hold of what other people might call dark, and to bring that into the norm, bring that into my everyday, and allow that to be a part of my conscious mind. And to me, having something like this just sort of softens that, allows there to be this softness that I naturally gravitate towards. Now, the Triumphi, I put this in here because I think it's important to have on our side deck in here just to see. But the Aquadoxical especially, I think, is just so pretty with this. I think the illustrations go really well together, the art style. And again, it feels contrasting, but I actually feel like this is maybe not as contrasting, and a little bit more of, like, this is cheeky. This deck is cheeky. We all know that Patrick Valenza is just kind of cheeky with the way that he illustrates. But here, I feel like you've got this lightheartedness, and then again, you've got this more groundedness. This is actually a little more lighthearted than this deck is, which I'll talk about later. But I thought I would throw these in there. Let me know what you think about having these types of pairings before I move on to what I feel are the really simpatico pairings. You will immediately recognize this deck right here. This is the Light Seers, and this is the Grimalkin's Tarot by MJ. And I chose these because, well, I just feel like, honestly, Light Seers Tarot goes with so many different things. But I think that the illustration style is simpatico enough. I like the backs together. And animals, cats just go with plants really well. I do feel like as far as reading wise, this would go with either of these, but the Grimalkin's better with the Soulflower to me than with this Earth Energy Oracle, but I'll explain more about that later. The Forhoxa Tarot and the Super Lunaris Tarot, I think these go well enough together on the backs, but it's really the fronts and the energy that I feel go together. Of course, this is getting a little bit more modern, and I'm very partial to this deck. Super Lunaris, I think the energy goes well because this is an everyday reader for me. And then I think that the energy of the Forhoxa, it's intense. Like, this is probably the most intense deck that she's done. I mean, the Crow Tarot is intense, but this deck, it's intense. So having this grounding energy, and of course, fairies and plants and stones go together wonderfully. Here we've just got it's called the Original Tarot, and it's just in a brown that I love. We've got, this is the RWS. And then I'm sorry to put this one out here, you guys, but this is the Arthurian Tarot, the really original first edition version of it. And it's hard to get, but not impossible. And then the Shadowscapes Tarot. And as you can see, you know, I had to throw an RWS in there, just a straight up RWS, because I mean, chances are most of you have one of those and are going to read with it. And so, you know, I love this version, by the way, you guys. Oh my gosh, I love this version. I will put a link to this. It's on Etsy, and it's not very expensive at all. I'm just going to show it off just for a second, but it's shiny. Do you see? It's like foil, and the printing on it is so nice. And the backs are brown, and brown is like one of my favorite colors to wear. So anyway, I think it goes wonderfully. And then, of course, the Arthurian Tarot, because you're working your way through those Avalonian mysteries there. And look, here we've got mugwort. So plants and Avalonian go great together. And then, of course, there's the Shadowscapes Tarot. And there's something about the Shadowscapes Tarot that it has it like makes my mind go away, and it makes my body reach out to the earth in order to connect with these incredible fae images. And there's even an Asian feel to this, which is such an ancient, deep culture. So I feel like these read really well together, and even the art styles go well together. Lastly, I wanted to go kind of far out here, and I've got the Outgrow Yourself, and this is a tarot and oracle. And then I have the Illustrated Fox Tarot here. And I chose to do this because the Outgrow Yourself, I'm going to be doing a before you buy. This is what I'm working with this month. So don't rush out and buy it until you see my before you buy on it. But it's Thoth based. And so I thought for those of you who do like the Thoth, or Thoth or Toth, whichever way you like to say it. And then here I wanted to feature a black and white oracle here. I mean, a black and white tarot here, just so you could see. I do feel like this deck is really, really cool and phenomenal. And I think it goes great with these oracle cards because it allows you, again, to get that grounding that you need. But they also have the elements going on. So seeing how the elements match up in here could be very interesting to work with if you're really into elemental magic, or if you're really into just reading through the elements and connect that way. I think it would be fascinating to see how these come up. And of course, these have the personalities on it, so that would be kind of cool too if you were reading for someone. What really drew me to doing the Earth Alchemy Oracle this month, actually the month of June and July, was that I loved the art style on it. I was really drawn in by that art style. One of the things that happens though is the last card always sticks in the box, and it is a bit, actually it's the last couple, and they are a little difficult to get out, just the last one. So there is that. Well, that's maybe a pet peeve. The writing style on this is very unique, and I will say that the Soulflower compared with the Earth Alchemy, they are like apples and oranges. They're very different take, completely different way of displaying energy for you, and different ways of divining different messages completely. So let's jump into that and talk about, you know, I'm going to go ahead and just talk about what I really liked about it. And then at the very end, you can check out what my personal opinions were on each one of these decks. This Earth Alchemy deck, first of all, I think the illustrations are wonderful, and there's such a chance to just kind of go into the cards themselves and just fall into the illustrations and let them kind of speak to you, the colors themselves. There's something, this is a very energetic deck, I would say. It is about reading the energies, understanding the energies, and looking at the world through an energetic perspective. So if you consider yourself a starseed or a light worker, if you are into the ascension movement or the idea of ascension or soul evolution, as I like to call it. I don't like the word ascension, you guys. I pretty much say soul evolution. Then I think you'll find this deck is very accommodating and has language that you will recognize if you are a part of that community or read or follow threads like that. And then, of course, it has the elements in it, which allow you to tap in on that level, on an elemental level if you want to, and then the key word for the card, but then also kind of these subheadings. So lilac, spirit quartz, community, healing division, teamwork, and freedom. I will say the font is a little bit small on this one, on the bottom part here. So sometimes I've got to kind of raise it up, even though I've got my readers on here. But the colors are so pretty. The artwork on this is amazing. Listen to this excerpt from the book to get a feel for the writing style. Jade and Pink Lotus, sink into silence. To work with the energies of Jade, you must get down to her level. She asks that you leave the ego to one side and meet her where there is no one higher than the other. From this level and even space, she teaches us to be humble, healing the heart through compassion. Jade wishes to bring peace and tranquility into your heart and mind. Sink into silence, she whispers. Perhaps you have been rushing around recently, pushing yourself hard. It will help you with grounding through uncertain and changing times, bringing a gentle understanding and integration that combats any worries, stress, or depression. It helps cells and skeletal systems rebuild and rebind themselves. It is a powerful cleansing stone, enhancing the body's filtration and elimination organs. On the physical, it links to the kidneys, spleen, and adrenal glands, removing toxins and balancing the fluids and water, salt, acid, alkaline ratios in the body. So as you can see, the Earth Alchemy Oracle, it's really about the energetics of the card. It's really about tapping into a vibration. And you'll see that there's a lot of sort of mystical language woven in there from different cultures. There's reference to chakras, there's reference to star seeds, there's reference to all sorts of stuff. And there are even like Lyrian Stargate here. So if you consider yourself a star seed and this is the kind of language that you're into, you will really feel at home here. Again, this is about the energetics. There's nothing really prescriptive. It did say slow down, but there's nothing directly prescriptive about this deck. This deck is going to be about, this is the essence of this plant. This is the essence of this stone. And this is how you tap into that vibration. And so it's really up to you to reflect on that vibration and integrate those ideas into where you are and allow that to sort of percolate and give you a message as to how that reflects on who you are. So I think asking energetic questions with this deck is really good. And, not so much for like straight up divinatory. Like if you need an answer about shadow work, this is just going to sort of point you in an energetic direction. Not that that's not a great place to go. And there are some of you that really prefer less prescriptive decks. And if that's you, then Earth Alchemy Oracle is for you. I will say this, the cards, even though they're shiny, they feel really nice. I do not riffle shuffle, you guys, but it's pretty flexible. Not super flexible. So some of you may struggle with that if you riffle shuffle. The Soulflower Oracle. This is, again, like I said, very different in its presentation of the material. And in that, I will say that this is much more prescriptive in the way that it speaks to you. Because this is simply flowers, it has its own energy. The other deck is, it's flowers and stones. So that's sort of two very different energies, both from the earth. But there's a softness to this deck, although it can be direct in its presentation. Nettle, transformation, rose, joy. Again, no borders, which I really like. One of the things that I found working with this deck is that, again, you did not need the book because there's quite a lengthy explanation there. And for some of you, you may really enjoy that. And now an excerpt from the book. Daylily, centering. Centering is becoming aware of an inner stillness. It involves taking an intermission from the daily grind to whatever form, so that with every breath, the doing recedes and you become aware of your physical body, how it takes up space and how it feels. And in the moment, you are simply being. You know that feeling on a Sunday morning when you are relaxing, enjoying your coffee, but then you start to think of all you have to do the coming week? And then you realize that there's no food in the house, the bathroom needs cleaning, and you probably should run the vacuum around. And in a flash, your moment of peace and rest could have been is now a mental circus of competing to do chores. Daylily reminds you to take a deep breath, to come back to the moment you are actually in. A novel concept. All those to-dos will happen eventually, but if you spend your moment of peace with your mind elsewhere, does your moment of peace actually exist? Life is a process. Every ending is, of course, a new beginning. Every understanding leads to a new question. Every experience is part of the journey. There is no finish line. We are never done learning what we need to learn. You are never done growing and becoming who you were meant to be. And as always, we have no control over things outside of ourselves, no matter how hard we try. Daylily says centering takes self-awareness, and it also takes practice, lots of practice. Every day, in fact. Practicing, pausing the busyness, the responsibilities, the to-do lists. Practice consciously pausing, breathing, becoming present and aware of all that is truly going on in the moment. Because really, what do we have if we don't have the present moment, if our minds are constantly rehashing the past or worrying about the future? At times, this notion is difficult to digest. We push and strive towards an ending, a completion. Our culture teaches us that being productive means we have value. Daylily says you already have value. And when you are still, you can hear the whispers of your heart confirming this truth. What brings you back to center? Affirmation. I am present and aware of myself and my surroundings. So again, a little bit more prescriptive. I feel that there's something just a little bit more direct about this writing style that comes in, and yet they're both soft. They're both very soft ways of communicating and reaching towards you and asking you to reach towards as well in order to kind of apprehend the feeling. So yeah, I would say that, that this is really about feeling. It's about the feeling of the flower, about the feeling that you can hold on to in order to bring a new experience into your world. And it is more prescriptive. I love the affirmation because at the end, it gives you this one sort of takeaway in order to be able to just do something practical with it. I am going to say, like the other deck, I do not think that you would like riffle shuffling this, but I mean, this feels a little bit stiffer even than the other one. And it is big because it's an oracle deck size. Of course, I only overhand shuffle, so I don't have any problem with this. It's not too slippery. It's not too shiny. You know, as you can see, it's not like this is going to blind you like other cards. Comparing the two of these, you can make your guess as to which one of these I'm going to keep. Go ahead and do that down below right now if you haven't already done it, or if you're in the premiere, put it in the chat. This deck, heavier. This deck, lighter. This deck definitely is just like easy, pick a card, go for it. This deck, a little bit more like you're trying to go deeper and you're going to spend some time with this. I felt like I could draw this in the morning and go and be off on my way with it. This feels like a nighttime deck. This feels like working with the subconscious and trying to pull things to light. Okay, we've got the Soulflower and the Earth Alchemy. Okay, first of all, things that I really liked about this. Love the art style. I love the fact that it is about energetics. It is about tapping into a vibration and seeing how that vibration feels and seeing how you're in alignment to that vibration. That I really appreciated. I really appreciated the saturation, the color tones, and I liked the size of the cards and the fact that there's no borders on there. What I did not like about this, I did not like the fact that I had to look in the table of contents every time and there's no order to it. I do not understand. To me, this was a big mistake on her part. This is a cumbersome aspect of this. You know, I've got to go to the front and I've got to just go down and kind of go, okay, and I'm looking at the first letter. And then I've got to make my way across these teeny tiny little numbers there. And I don't see the reason for it. It's not like these are grouped in categories like in the Work Your Light Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. You know, they're in categories. She could have put a number on these and made it really easy, or she could have done it alphabetical. That's just a personal pet peeve, but it was something when I went to reach for it, I thought, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be as accessible as I'd like it to be. And then just another personal thing for me on this one, I was deeply involved in the Ascension community for quite some time, and I began to feel that it became what I call religious. When things become religious, it's that dogmatic form of the Hierophant that becomes exclusive and hierarchical. And so some of the language in here was triggering for me because I do feel that a lot of the language in here is specific to the Ascension community and therefore not as inclusive. And that is a problem that I started to feel in the Ascension community. It was something that made me really look at how I wanted to interface with groups of people. I am deeply against dogma. I feel that it very much binds us. That being said, this itself is not dogmatic. I was personally triggered by it, and I had to work through that. I did understand the language. Many of you may be able to understand the language in here. It's not that far off, but for me, there was just this little thing of something that I had left behind that made it difficult for me to surrender into this deck. Okay. This deck here, at first when I got this, I was kind of like, this is the deck I'm going to like because it's all about alchemical, right? Then I went into this deck and I thought, man, I love the fact that I can just pick it up and take it anywhere and I don't need the book. I liked the affirmations at the end of this. I really liked the fact that she has a way of asking me to tap into my emotional body. That felt really good for me because I can be a very heady person. So when I move to a deck that's about plants, that's what I want to do. I want to get more into the divine feminine aspects of self, and I want to tap into that. What I did not like about this, just a simple pet peeve, I really don't like the backs on these. I find them kind of boring, but I have a tendency to like more ornate things. So that's a small thing. The other thing is I felt like these were just a little bit big, which is weird because I like big cards, but I felt like these could have been a little bit smaller. And I think working with this deck, like I felt like, man, the size of this deck just felt really good. And the artwork felt compact. And the fact that they had really similar, layouts. They have the white on the bottom. And I thought, man, this would be nice if this was a little bit more compact, but I don't know that you could get all of this information on there. So at the end of the day, which one did I choose? I'm actually going to keep them both. I feel like this really pushed me to honor that time in my life and the work, the powerful, impactful work that I did during this stretching of myself, and to realize that you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that all of that has been integrated into me, and that I'm happy that I know this language, and I'm happy that I can tap into that aspect of myself and that timeline in my life in order to sort of move my mind towards an energetic way of growing. This deck, I just loved it. Honestly, I feel like this is so happy and accessible. I love the flowers. I love the flowers that she chose. I love the associations that she chose. I really felt like this was a deck that was easy to reach for. Let me know if you have either of these decks below. In the meantime, you may want to check out these videos over here. And I just want to remind you to check out my new lives that I'll be doing every month. And especially to see me live on Gerald's channel on the 8th. That's Tarot Stash. Check me out over there. And also check me out here live on the 10th, where we can all have a party together.